Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about gerrymandering and redistricting. If you've never watched any of my episodes, please watch this one at least. I promise every single second of this video will be worth your time. So let's talk about what happened in Virginia a few days ago. On April 21st, 2016, or 2026, I'm sorry, voters passed a constitutional amendment allowing mid-decade redistricting, bypassing the independent commission and letting the Democratic legislature draw its own maps. So, so the new map is designed to flip approximately four Republican seats, taking the delegation from 6-5 Democrat to 10, potentially 10-1 Democrat. This was explicitly a counter to GOP redistricting in states like Texas, which is part of the broader national redistricting wars. But within a day, a Virginia judge blocked the map's implementation, and it's now being uh, brought to the appeals. It's heading to the appeals, likely the state Supreme Court, and the appeal is very likely to win, and the ruling is likely to stand. So how did this all kick off? This started with Donald Trump calling Greg Abbott in Texas. In 2025, Donald Trump pushed Republican states to redo congressional maps mid-decade, not the usual once per 10-year cycle. At Trump's urging, Greg Abbott called a special session to redraw Texas districts, and the goal is to flip approximately 5 Democratic-held U.S. seats to House seats to Republicans. This is what kicked off the national escalation. So Texas passed new GOP favoring maps amid walkouts and legal fights. And courts later challenged or limited parts of these maps, adding more conflict. And other states saw this as partisan escalation. So then what happened in response is Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, proposed Proposition 50. That was California's counter. And Gavin Newsom warned, if red states gerrymander, then California will too. California voters in November of 2025 on the ballot, they passed Proposition 50 through a vote. It temporarily bypassed the Independent Redistricting Commission. It lets Democrats redraw maps to offset Texas gains. And the result was maps were expected to shift several seats towards Democrats. And this turned into like a tit for tat strategy. The national escalation continued in 2026, so multiple states joined the fight: Virginia, Ohio, etc., each trying to gain seats for House in the House elections in 2026 midterms. The courts and the Supreme Court are now heavily involved in the disputes. And so the net effect so far is both parties, Republican and Democratic Party, are gaining in different states, mostly canceling each other out. So let's look at some of the estimated redistricting shifts so far. Texas +5 Republican, California +5 Democrat, Utah +1 Democrat, Missouri +1 Republican, North Carolina +1 Republican, Ohio +1 to +2 Republican, Virginia +4 Democrat. So the net was roughly +1 to +2 Democratic seats nationally. But before Virginia a few days ago, it was +2 to +3 Republican. Now it's +1 to +2 Democrat seats nationally. So the bottom line of all this is the Trump strategy to push GOP states like Texas to redraw maps mid-cycle. It kind of backfired because states like California through Prop 50 redrew it back. Okay, and the result was a nationwide arms race over district maps with lawsuits everywhere and limited net advantage. And in fact, after what happened a few days ago in Virginia, Democrats have a +1 to +2 advantage as well. And so let me give further context to this. So in 2021, there was a federal anti-gerrymandering push by the Democrats. The Democrats introduced a For the People Act, which included a nationwide ban on partisan gerrymandering via independent redistricting commissions. Okay, this bill would have required independent redistricting commissions nationwide instead of state legislatures drawing these electoral district maps. This effectively banned partisan gerrymandering for congressional maps. And a simple distinction between gerrymandering and redistricting is as follows. So, decade redistricting happens every 10 years after the United States Census Bureau census. It's a required process of redrawing district maps to reflect population changes. Whereas partisan gerrymandering refers to how those maps are drawn, manipulating boundaries to favor one party. So, in Texas, they're drawing the lines artificially to give more Republican seats. That's what was happening in 2025. And in 2021, the vote for the People Act to try to limit partisan gerrymandering, but not eliminate the 10-year redistricting cycle. So what that means is redistricting is when maps change due to population changes in the state. So every 10 years, there's more population or less population in a state, more in a certain district, less in a certain district. They uh, they redraw the lines to reflect population changes. Whereas gerrymandering uh, is when maps are manipulated. Okay, and it leads to drawing electoral district boundaries in a way that intentionally advantages one political party or group during the redistricting process. So, how each party voted in this is the Democrats nearly all supported these bills, and the Republicans all opposed them in Congress. In the House of Representatives on March 3rd, 2021, they passed it 220 to 210. So that was good for the Democrats. And so nearly all said yes, and Republicans zero said yes. And all of them said no. And so this showed the interpretation of this is a strong party line vote. Democrats supported anti-gerrymandering provisions, and the Republicans opposed. And the result, it failed to advance, but because it needed 60 votes, but it got 50. And let me explain why this was the result. Because in the Senate on June 22nd, 2021, there was a procedural vote. 50 Democrats voted yes, unified support. 50 Republicans voted no. Because at that time, when Biden was president, it was 50 Democrats, 50 Republicans. And before the midterms. And so the interpretation of this and the big picture bottom line is the bill was blocked by filibuster, again, along party lines. So basically, filibuster how bills work is if it's a tax or revenue bill, like the big beautiful bill, it needs to pass through simple majority. So if that was the case, then this for the part, what's it called? For the People Act would have passed, but because it's not a tax or revenue bill, it has to pass via filibuster. So if you get 60 votes, not just this 50 vote simple majority, so it didn't pass. So the bottom line is Democrats wanted a federal anti-gerrymandering law, and they all pretty much voted for it, or the Republicans voted against it. So, and the split, let me explain to you why there's a split in the first place. The Democratic position is that national standards are needed to stop partisan map drawing. And the Republican position is redistricting should remain a state-controlled process. And they basically have opposition to federal election rules more broadly. So the bottom line is, in 2021, Democrats backed a federal ban on partisan gerrymandering, and Republicans uniformly opposed it. So as a result of that, no federal ban exists today, leaving redistricting largely controlled by states, which is why Texas was able to do what they did back in 2025. It's like this. You go to school every single day, and a bully punches you every single day, and you keep telling him to stop over and over and over again. And the only way to get him to stop is by punching back. And so what you do is you're kind of forced into a corner, and so you kind of do what you have to do, and you punch back. And so punching back just in of itself is wrong, but you have to look at the full context. And Republicans are stripping the situation of crucial context of why it happened. Democrats were forced into a corner, and they kind of had to do what they had to do in order to level the playing field. Otherwise, Republicans would have kept getting, +5 Republican, +4, +3 in all these states, and they would have kept the House. They would have rigged the election to keep the House. So why I said at the beginning of this video that this specific video is so important, it's because it's a very clear example of what exactly MAGA Republicans are trying to do to this country. They're trying to rig elections to stay in power. And America's foundational democracy is at threat because of this MAGA agenda. And the only way to counter this is to vote Democrat for U.S. House and U.S. Senate in these upcoming midterms. Even if you're apolitical, you got to vote. Okay, this is not like low taxes versus higher taxes, less government spending versus more government spending. This is about democracy versus authoritarianism. And as the saying goes, fuck around, find out. And to the MAGA Republicans who pushed so hard for the Texas redistricting back in 2025, you made your bed, now lay in it.